The largest primate in the world is also the strongest. In fact, the eastern lowland gorilla is among the strongest animals pound for pound. Their size and strength has led to their depiction as classic monsters that Superman and Godzilla need to contend with. But though they seem to be the ultimate primal savage, that may not be the most accurate picture of our jungle friends. With one look into their soulful, knowing eyes, you may think twice about their demeanor in real life, death, and taxonomy. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
And today, first of all, thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, search Cassie Michelle on YouTube.
And thank you to Brian for making the art for this week's episode. To see the art, visit us at ldtaxonomy.com or follow us on Facebook or Twitter.
And today we're talking about the biggest and the strongest primate in the world. But more on that later.
I always imagined this animal to be so much bigger than it actually is.
Yeah.
Because of a certain movie. But we're talking about the eastern lowland gorilla. I think gorilla in general, but the eastern lowland gorilla has some interesting
specifically
aspects.
The eastern gorillas. There's two subspecies, the mountain and the lowland. And then there's the same thing on the west side of the Congo. The
West Enders.
Where there's these lowlanders and highlanders.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really taking that into account because they're the lowest population.
Yeah, so that's because they drive
the Highlanders
Chevys.
can only be one.
There can only be one.
And they're working towards that. There's like hundreds. It's in the hundreds.
Yeah, it's definitely all the gorillas' fault.
By they, I mean poachers.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the gorillas. It was like the gorillas are working really hard to be just only one. But we're gonna call the eastern lowland gorilla is great, but the ELG. But we're gonna call it here Bonky Kong because they're strong and they'll bonk you. And Mighty Joe Young. So that's just gonna be your name for the rest of the episode is Mighty Joe.
Are they also called the Gwar gorilla or something? Gwar's gorilla or Gurs?
Sure. I mean, the subspecies is close to that.
Interesting. Do you know what science calls it?
Yeah. Let's talk about the subspecies at the end of this long list of other names. The kingdom is the one you know, love, and are in, and that's Animalia. The phylum is Chordata, class Mammalia. It's got fur. It has milk. It gives birth to live young. I think that's most of it.
The highlights.
Yeah. It doesn't have highlights.
It does.
Doesn't have frosted tips like
it does. The dominant male has frosted tips on its back.
That's not frosted tips. That's a touch of gray. It's salt and pepper. When I think of frosted tips, I think of
Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, JT in NSYNC days. The order is Primates, which just looks like the word primates, but if it's Latin, it's Primates. The suborder is Haplorhini. The infraorder is Simiformes, so like a simian, monkeyish. The family is Hominidae. Yeah, not Hominidae, Hominidae. The subfamily is... Yep, that's right. So the family is Hominidae, and the subfamily is Homininae. Got that all mixed up. The tribe is Gorillini.
Huh.
The genus is Gorilla. There's a whole genus just called Gorilla. The species is Beringi. I don't know. Beringei, Beringi. And the subspecies is Groweri, because I guess gorillas will not grow airy. They will rise up on wings like eagles.
We passed up the opportunity to go with the western lowland gorilla and have the subspecies just be gorilla.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the biggest boy in the neighborhood.
Gorilla.
Marsha,
I forgot what other
Marsha,
animal.
Marsha.
If you say gorilla 3 times, one appears in your room with you and attacks you. Or, as we'll learn later, maybe signs to you that it wants to be tickled. Since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and the question is the same every time. What is the name of the group of this animal, or what is the term of entry, or what is the collective noun?
I know the answer to this.
Darn it.
You might want to look up babies.
Nope, babies are babies.
Oh, just babies?
Yep. Darn it.
Maybe you found a different one.
Probably not. Let's let the audience figure it out. We'll give them a nice long pause to come to figure it out. So this is more for your benefit, listeners, than it is for Mighty Joe's. Usually it's for his benefit. All right, so, listener, if you saw a group of gorillas hanging out, would you say that's A, a pack of gorillas, B, a herd of gorillas, C, a troop of gorillas, or D, a family of gorillas?
I do know the answer to this one.
I know you know the answer to this one. It's all over the Wikipedia page.
Maybe we don't say the name, and the first person to tweet us will get a shout out, or to reach out in any way with the answer.
The first person to look it up and reach out to us gets a shout out next episode.
On the next episode.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. And we're not going to say it. To reiterate, the options were A, pack, B, herd, C, troop, and D, family. Find out what the answer is on next week's episode of Dragon Ball Z. Critter Groups is just standing there on a planet, screaming and powering up for the next Super Saiyan level. Let's talk about what it looks like. You want to hear what it looks like?
Sure.
It's a gorilla.
Oh.
It's basically, this is your standard gorilla. This is about as gorilla as it gets. If you're picturing a gorilla in your mind, like a male silverback gorilla, this is it. Gorillas are large, humanoid beasts with large heads, broad shoulders, long arms, stubby legs, and tiny little ears. They are covered head to toe in black fur, except for their faces, hands, and feet. But
chests.
Some variants have patches of reddish-brown fur. Yes, also their chests are bare. Sometimes they have like a little... Some of them are redheads. However, silverback males have a large patch of grayish fur on their backs and haunches. You know, because they're silverbacks.
Silverbacks.
It's punching time in the jungle. They have heavy brows, close set eyes, and a jaw that protrudes out from, so it's not set in their face like ours. It's brought out. And they have wide, flat nostrils. Their feet also have opposable thumbs as well as their hands, allowing them to grasp things just as easily with their feet as they do with their hands, which would be weird but also very helpful for me because I walk around barefoot in my house and there's a lot of toys on the floor from Mason. And it'd be great to not have to bend down to pick them up. You just pick them up with my hands, feet.
If they're small enough, you can.
Yeah, but then it's like, what do I do from there? I really have to hold it. This would be nice to...
Oh, just be able to grab it and walk around like that.
Well, it'd be tough to walk around because I'd have to hop around, but at least I can I can hold it firmly and not just like death grip it with just by clenching my toes. Yeah, and also, yeah, it'd be nice to solve a Rubik's Cube with my feet too. That's on my bucket list. But it would be a lot easier if I had opposable thumbs down there, like a Beast from X-Men. All right, so you said they're the biggest boys of the gorilla genus, tribe. So why don't you go ahead and tell us just how large?
Okay. Well, that brings us to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself singing or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com.
Was that all one breath?
No. We don't have a new Measure Up intro this week.
It's becoming a pattern. We haven't had one in a long time.
But that means we get to hear from an animal and Carlos has to guess what it is.
Bring it on.
Okay, without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. Is that A, capuchin monkey, B, a European green toad, C, a galago, which is like a bush baby?
It's not a comedian that uses a sledgehammer to bust up watermelons?
No, that's a Gallagher, and I didn't know he existed until he was on a commercial.
Really?
No, yeah.
It's also not an arcade game where you blast spaceships?
Why is Weird Al smashing watermelons?
Why is Charlie Chaplin Weird Al with a weird hat?
Or D, a giant salamander.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to rule out giant salamander. We need to cover the giant salamander. Have we not done that one yet?
I feel like it's been on the list.
That's crazy. I think I have to go with capuchin monkey because it's thematically appropriate, and that was kind of what I was thinking of when I was hearing it. I was getting a very Pirates of the Caribbean feeling.
Final answer?
Yep.
That is correct. It is a very monkey sound. There was a lower sound that I thought might throw you off, but that's a capuchin monkey at bedtime, and he's crying because he doesn't want to go to sleep.
That's cute.
So let's talk about height. Males can stand up to 5.5 feet, which is 1.6 meters. So you and I, well, how does it feel to be taller than the largest primate?
It feels pretty good. I'll just push him over if I ever see him.
And he'll laugh at the attempt. Because although he is shorter, he's got a much lower center of gravity and a lot more weight. So how many gorillas go into the Republic of Congo's tallest building?
I'm seeing on the Wikipedia page that the maximum standing height for males is 6.1 feet on the eastern lowland gorilla. Did you find something else?
So 5.5 feet is gorillas on average, but the eastern lowland is the largest subspecies, so they could be taller up to 6 feet.
The tallest building in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I guess I'll go with...
Well, here's a hint before you guess. The tower is the Nabima Tower, and it's located in Brazzaville, and it's named after the country's tallest mountain, which stands at 3,346 feet, I think. I didn't write down the unit. It just stands at 3,346.
That's probably meters.
Probably.
It's not a very tall mountain.
But it's also... It makes the Architectural Digest's list of ugliest skyscrapers in the world. I think that's kind of harsh.
Yeah, that's rude.
It looks fine. Looks pretty interesting to me.
It's all art, right? So you can't really say that it's ugly. Everything has some sort of merit in the eye of the beholder, which is why you can paint a picture of a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup and that be worth millions of dollars.
Yep.
Or Van Gogh can paint a picture of a chair that looks like he has no idea what 3-point perspective is, and yet that would be worth millions of dollars. Anyway, I'm going to say this thing is 50 stories, so that's 500 feet. And this is 5.5 feet?
The elevation is 3,346 feet.
Oh, that's a small mountain. It's only a tenth of Everest. And that's a big mountain.
It's the biggest mountain.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's the biggest one above ground, above sea level. I'm gonna say 90.
90 gorillas.
90 gorillas standing on each other's shoulders could rest their hands on the top of this building in Brazzaville.
The correct answer is 63.2 gorillas.
Oh, I wasn't that far off.
63 gorillas and a baby gorilla. The tower is 347.7 feet or 106 meters.
That's relatively small.
It is.
And it's a pretty big country, too. It's one of the bigger African countries.
Let's talk weight. Their stocky builds and heavy mass make the eastern lowland gorillas the largest primates in the world at 460 pounds or 210 kilograms.
That is crazy. 5.5 feet tall at 460 pounds for a human is morbidly obese. But
if you look at their build...
But if you look at them, they're dense. Like, they've got to be just all muscle.
But they're really pot-bellied, too. If you look at, juveniles, they're just round little fur balls. So how many worker termites would a gorilla have to eat its weight in termites?
Oh, boy.
Here's a hint. A termite queen can weigh 30 times the weight of a typical worker. Winged alate termites, which is a word that means it's a winged version of a eusocial insect, I guess. They're also heavier than a worker.
Oh boy, I don't even think I can try to do math on this. I think I'm just gonna do a shot in the dark and say, I don't know, 10 million.
10 million termites?
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like it would take 1 million to fill up the... like if you had a glass receptacle that was the same volume as a gorilla, it would be 1 million, but gorillas would be a lot denser than that, so I'm just putting a multiplier of 10 on that. I'm 10xing.
Okay. 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Final answer.
Mm-hmm.
The correct answer is 233,333,333.
Oh boy.
The worker termite weighs about 0.9 milligrams.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to try to figure out that in ounces or whatever.
It's a really big, a really long number. 0.00000.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to try. But
ounces are too big. I don't know what the Imperials were thinking.
I come to that same conclusion with almost every time we try to do this. It's like
an ounce is huge.
An inch is so long, and an ounce is really heavy. So it's like, what? I guess they just didn't really think about stuff smaller than or lighter than your thumb.
Yeah, there was nothing smaller. Didn't exist.
Or nothing worth measuring, at least.
The imperial system, the only thing I like better than that in terms of the way we measure things is Fahrenheit. I think Celsius is better for certain science things, like because it's easier boiling point and freezing point. But for your day-to-day, like what temperature is it outside, you're more accurate with Fahrenheit.
Yeah, because the difference between 1 Celsius to the next is
Bigger.
Yeah, it's bigger. So if I would much rather have a thermostat that ran on Fahrenheit than Celsius, because turning it up 1 Celsius might kill everybody.
Maybe not kill everybody,
No,
but it will.
It would go from comfortable to not comfortable at all.
Your houseplants and like chinchillas might die.
All of my chinchillas are at risk with this darn metric system.
My Alaskan pika is not doing well. It's too hot in here.
Yeah, it's going to overheat. Time to switch to Fahrenheit. Or Kelvin. Kelvin works.
Kelvin is also used for science.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
But you have to work with a lot of big numbers because 0 Kelvin is absolute 0. I don't even know what freezing is.
3.
No. All right, so let's. Is that it?
That's all I got for
right,
that.
Yeah. For that's all if for measure up. Yeah. So they're 5.5 average feet tall, all the way up to 6 feet tall. But I remember because of Tarzan, the movie, I thought the silverbacks were like 6 feet tall on their knuckles. Like he was huge compared to Tarzan, and so I remember thinking like, man, if you encounter a gorilla, it's just going to pick you up and throw you 20 yards or rip you in half. And it still probably could rip you in half, but just not quite as easily as I had imagined.
As one might rip a goat.
Oh, what is that from?
It's from Samson, the book. It's from Judges.
Oh, okay. I thought it was from a movie. It would be
Sam,
easy, like breaching a toothpick.
No, it's like they describe, because Samson kills a lion. And it says he like ripped the lion like one rips a goat. And I'm like, wait. Are the people back then ripping goats?
It's like yeah.
That's hard. Sounds very, that's impressive to me.
It's like he Samson ripped a lion in half. Like you'd rip a goat in half. like you and your sons and daughters would just rip goats in half.
Like a child could rip a goat in half, like it's easy. That's how easy it was for him to rip this lion.
Oh,
the rip. I'd like to do a word study on rip, because rip, it might be like stab or something like,
or tore
like that,
instead of like actually ripping in half,
or not even tearing, just like killing in a different way.
Let's do a ancient Hebrew word study on the word.
It might be it might be how the ancient Hebrews described like breaking an animal's neck or something like that.
Maybe.
Interesting. Translations are fun.
All right, let's talk about where the gorilla lives. You mentioned the Democratic Republic of Congo, and you are correct.
It lives in a condominium.
Yeah. Democratic Republic of Condos. Oh, it's just condos as far as the eye can see.
No, that's just like when your HOA gets too powerful.
That's when you cross the Sunshine Skyway near Tampa and you get to St. Petersburg, it's just the Democratic Republic of Condos. And then a Bubba Gumps, which is really fun to go to. But no, the Congo, they like the forests and jungles of sub-Saharan Africa, but because there are so few of them, they inhabit a very small region of this large country and nowhere else. This specifically the eastern lowland gorilla. The western obviously lives more west in the Ethiopia range. So here's some fast facts before we get into the major fact. I bet you think they eat bananas. They're monkeys, right? Wrong. On both accounts, they're not monkeys. They're apes. And they're the ape named Ape. Did you ever watch George the Jungle?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I didn't know if I was alone in that.
A couple weeks ago, Brendan Fraser was trending on Twitter for no reason other than people like him.
He is a very likable guy.
And they were just talking about George of the Jungle.
I want to watch that again. Bibby never saw it, so I'd have to watch it by myself because there's no way that you could enjoy that as an adult without having seen it as a kid. No nostalgia value. It's probably pretty terrible. Like Space
It's got a
Jam.
lot of like fun noises and stuff, so maybe Mason would like it.
Yeah. It has.
Does he enjoy the color green? Because that's represented quite a bit.
There is a lot of that. Also, bad guy falls down into poop. This is the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking of the ape named Ape. John Cleese at his finest. But so yeah, they don't eat bananas as much as you might think they do.
They probably would if there were lots of bananas.
No, if they find a banana tree, they'll actually rip the tree down and eat the flesh of the tree.
Interesting.
Rather than the bananas, because they mostly eat very like succulents, like waterlogged plants that absorb rain and dew. In fact, they eat so much of it that they don't really need to drink water that much.
I saw that they'll eat like these very bitter leaves, but they'll eat it with at the same time that they eat a certain type of bamboo, and the flavor together makes it more palatable.
I'm just imagining a Remy the Rat situation but in the gorilla world. It's just they all are just eating whatever they come across, but one of them is like a foodie. Yeah. And he figures out how to combine this bitter herb with delicious bamboo.
This leaf, which bamboo pairs well with this leaf?
Yeah. I think it's white bamboo. Or red, I don't know. With that, I would have white wine. So they will eat fruit, but apparently they don't eat bananas. They'll also eat insects, like you said. They eat termites, and that is evidenced by the time Tarzan used Tantor's trunk to blow all of the termites out of the mountains for all the gorillas to eat while Phil Collins sang about coming of age.
I feel like it would be really hard to get a mouthful if they were dispersed in such a way.
It looked like they were kind of just running around and picking them out of the... Yeah, that would make sense. You'd think that you would like rip open one of the... There we go, rip, the word again. Break open one of the mounds and then just get like a handful. Yeah. Oh man, I would. That's the worst. Just a handful of ants, and just put it in your mouth. How are they not
spicy?
I don't know. I guess termites would be spicy.
Apparently, some ants are spicy. That might be the like acidity.
Oh yeah, that's what we were talking about. The horny toad, the lizard.
That was a while ago.
Lizard that shoots blood out of its eyes. It gets that because it eats ants, and its blood is spicy. So that, because we were like, why, if something's coming to eat you, it's coming to eat your blood. Why would you take one of the delicious parts about you and throw it at your enemy?
A little appetizer.
Yeah, it's just
listen, but it is an appetizer. It's like, this is what I'm gonna taste like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too spicy for me. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Do you have any ice cream that I could have? I need to lay down. Don't just give the dingo or the coyote ice cream. So, like other apes, gorillas are known to be incredibly smart, for animals at least. They often use tools like sticks and rocks. Actually, the word "often" is kind of generous. It's definitely more common with like chimpanzees. Gorillas
and orangutans
don't use tools as often as the other apes do.
It was thought though that they didn't use them like barely at all.
Yeah,
but then recently we've found like, oh, they actually do have some tool use.
That's why in the new Planet of the Apes movies, the leaders are chimpanzees and kind of the lackeys are gorillas. They're the dumb ones. And then like the wise sage is an orangutan. But the gorillas will use sticks and rocks to interact with the world around them. They recorded a female using a stick to gauge the depth of water before crossing, which is really smart. And then they, like chimpanzees, they'll use a rock to open a nut or something to get inside or to break open a tough fruit. But they can also use sign language. There is just the best video, if you haven't already watched it, of Robin Williams interacting with a gorilla named Coco. And they get in what can only be described as the perfect tickle fight. they're like talking, and then there's like behind the camera there's Coco's agent, manager, interpreter. Coco like makes some hand signals, and she's like, she wants you to tickle her. So then Robin Williams just starts poking this giant gorilla, and the gorilla starts to laugh and pokes him back, and oh man, it's very good. And you can make a good case that Coco recognized Robin Williams from seeing him in a movie.
Did she watch movies?
Yeah, they handed her. Oh, it's great. You got to watch it. They said it seemed like she recognized him, and then they handed her the VHS of, I couldn't see which movie it was, but she looked at
This
it.
is Doubtfire.
I don't know. This was in 2001, so it could be any number of movies because he was.
He was prolific.
Yeah. But she looks at it, and then she points at it and looks at him. Points at his picture on the cover and looks at him. Like taps it a couple times, and the agent was like, "Yeah, that's him." So it's pretty funny. And she also took his glasses off and put them on herself, like the same way, over her eyes. And then she also stole his wallet just to verify his identity. I want to make sure she was talking to the Robin Williams. And what?
I'm pretty sure that when she was told that he died, that she said that she was like sad.
Yeah, I did see that.
It was either him or
no, it was her. I mean, it was Robin Williams.
She also met Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say next. And they burp in each other's faces, in the best possible way, I guess. It's a greeting to burp in a gorilla's face so that they can be like, hey, you are well nourished. I like what you ate. Can you show me to where the bamboo with the bitter leaves is? And I'll show you to where McDonald's is. But yeah, so Coco is a national, or was, I don't know if she's still alive, but they live as long as 60 years in captivity, so there's a good chance she's still alive.
Coco is not alive.
No. Oh, never mind. She was a national treasure. Other than that, that's all I got.
So let's get into the major fact. So do you know what the strongest animal pound for pound is?
A crocodile?
No, it's a dung beetle. But guess
Is
what
it
the
really?
second strongest animal pound for pound is?
Crocodile again.
No, it's a rhino beetle.
Darn.
But guess what the third animal pound for pound is?
Leafcutter ant.
Leafcutter ant.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Yeah. But guess what the fourth strongest animal pound for pound is?
Another bug. I'm out of bugs.
No, it's a gorilla.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. So fourth on a list that everything else is insects. The strongest animal pound for pound. So considering the fact that they are
vertebrates,
much heavier, and vertebrates, that's pretty impressive. Gorillas are as much as 9 times stronger than a typical human being, and they can lift around 10 times their own body weight. That's the equivalent of you lifting a small car.
That is so crazy. Like, man, how are they so strong? They're not that big.
A dung beetle can lift like the equivalent of you lifting a building. And then a rhino beetle is like you lifting a train. And
then a leafcutter ant's like you lifting a heavy couch.
Yeah, no, because it's more than a heavy couch is less than a car, and that's what gorillas are at.
Oh.
So something between a car
and a train.
A truck. So they routinely show feats of strength by lifting logs, ripping plants out of the ground, rolling stones with ease. Because of their bulky size, their large canine teeth, and their aggressive territorial displays, they're often depicted as the ultimate primordial big savage ape, like the original King Kong. But that may not be the full picture. So what is their immense strength for? Silverback gorillas are the biggest and strongest of all gorillas, and they usually rise to the top of family groups. Blackback males are younger and smaller, and they form the rear guard of family groups, waiting in the back to make sure nothing is stalking the fam. But silverbacks are actually gentle fathers, able to temper their strength to play with babies and young gorillas. Like human toddlers, rough play helps them learn the appropriate applications of strength in social settings. So you usually see these giant silverback gorillas playing with babies, and it's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike chimpanzees and some other apes that are true omnivores, gorillas rarely eat meat. We've already talked about what they eat. They like vegetations and fruit and insects.
And chimpanzees like each other.
They kill each other. They don't eat each other as much, I don't think, do they?
I have to.
They definitely eat other monkeys
I have to
on the
verify
reg.
that. Yeah, they definitely do.
And other animals. But they have large canines and a bite force of 1,300 pounds per square inch, which is like twice the bite force of a lion, and it's similar to the bite force of a hyena.
Dang.
I think hyenas were like 1,200.
These guys are very well equipped for Africa.
Whereas the hyenas like bite force is about their jaw structure, but the gorilla's bite force is all about their like neck and jaw muscles, which are very big.
So they can bite through bones as well? I mean, I guess they don't eat meat, so they wouldn't do that. But that was the whole point of having such strong bite force for the hyenas, so they could eat and digest bones.
Yeah, so it's not about biting through prey like bones, but they might use it on tougher plants and bamboo and stuff. Because I think a panda also has a pretty high bite force, and they're bamboo eaters.
Yeah, I guess bamboo must be tougher than I thought, although I don't think it is.
No, well, I saw a BBC journalist eating bamboo with gorillas, so it can't be that. But maybe they use it for crunching on tough plants. But the closest they come to using their full strength is when they fight other rival males to protect the family group for mating rights. When a male reaches silverback status, once they accumulated their miles, they're
delta miles.
Age miles. Yeah. They'll leave their family group and try to attract some females of their own. But if they have to compete with other males, it may come to blows. However, with all that strength, fights between rival males often leave both injured or mortally wounded. So they avoid a fight like as a last resort, and they'll avoid other groups and are very slow to engage in conflict. But they are pretty territorial, but they'd rather solve conflict with territorial displays rather than a fight. So a recent study, like 2020, found that they have very human-like territorial behaviors. So they have these nuanced behaviors rather than like a chimpanzee who, like, chimpanzee groups will just, if somebody crosses this very distinct border of their territory, they go on a war rampage and kill the other group.
Yeah.
But instead, gorillas have like a loose territory. They'll have like a strict center family territory. But then around that, they'll have a loose territory which can overlap with other group territories. So they'll share space. But if they get closer to the core of a territory, then they'll like fight for that area. So like it's an inner circle and then an outer circle. In the outer circle, they'll actually share space. So it's this kind of
Venn diagram.
Nuanced and intelligent, or more seemingly intelligent way to handle territory.
Civil,
yes. So if they do have to defend, males will beat their chest, scream, bare their teeth, and use false charges to scare off rivals before engaging in violence. They may even use branches to shake at intruders, like an old man with a walking stick, to increase like noise and threatening movements. But even though they rarely have to use their full strength and have high vegetable diets, their immense strength comes from genetics. So, like if you look at a gorilla, you can see like crazy muscle tone, like a bodybuilder's body.
Yeah.
But they're not lifting weights, right? So they get their strength from walking around on their arms, and they have really high upper body strength. But other than that, they have naturally strong frames.
I was going to say, I walk around on my legs, and they're not as strong as their arms.
No, but your legs are stronger than your arms.
Yeah, but they're not. They're walking on all fours, so it can't just be they're supporting their own weight alone that makes them like Mr. Incredible strength.
Yeah, no, it comes from a lot of genetics. So mammals tend to be larger not because of predators, but because of mating and competition. Since the spoils go to the strongest, males have grown to be big despite their gentle natures. So their size and strength displays alone may be enough to win a contest at this point. So it's interesting that like they're so big and strong that they don't fight. Because if they did fight with other really big and strong males, everyone could die.
It's a nuclear standoff.
It's mutual assured destruction.
Yeah, goodness. 9 times stronger than a average human. Yeah, they could be One Punch Man.
You can see videos of like BBC researchers going and like sitting with them or like sitting near them.
Or Robin Williams getting tickled by one.
Yeah. Well, wild ones. I saw a video of this BBC journalist sitting around them, and then the family moved off, and then the two males, two like blackback males, stuck around, and they started like showing off to one another. So like they would rip a plant out of the ground or like rip a branch off a tree, and like then one of them walks over casually and like looks in another direction like he wasn't planning on doing anything, and just kicks the researcher not that hard. And then the next one, like to one up him, just tackled the researcher.
Oh man.
Like with his forearm, just pushed into her, and she just rolled. But she wasn't injured or anything. Like he wasn't doing it to destroy her. He was doing it to like mess around.
It's like when like King Kong keeps like setting up Naomi Watts and then just pushing her over and then setting her up and pushing her over.
Yeah, kind of like that. Exactly like that. But pretty scary.
Yeah, goodness gracious.
But there's another video which I didn't link to because it was a gorilla in the zoo, and it looked like the gorilla was having a terrible time. Because it sounded like there was a huge crowd like watching him, and every time he would do anything, they would like cheer or like whatever, and he looked like he was getting agitated, so I didn't link it. But in it, he's like doing these displays, like beating his chest and like baring his teeth, like he's threatening the crowd. But one of the things he's doing is taking this huge log, like a full-grown oak tree log, and just flipping it like it's nothing with one hand. And like it would probably, if you could lift half of it, you probably need to use your legs without throwing it. If you didn't want to throw out your back, and he's just flipping it with one hand casually. It's crazy.
Huh. He's getting Hulk strength with how angry he's getting.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's part of the territorial display too, is like, look how strong I am. I flipped this.
I flipped this. Unleash your inner mountain gorilla or lowland gorilla.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Dang, I didn't realize that they were that strong. There's a great picture of a park worker in the Democratic Republic of Congo taking a selfie, and there's these two gorillas standing behind him, and it looks like they're about to drop like an album. they look so intense and so sure of themselves, and they're standing on 2 feet. I don't know, just look it up. Just type in gorilla. It's going to be like the first picture you see. So for you out there in Podcastia, that was the gorilla. So chill out with your family. Eat your leafy greens. And make sure you're strong enough to pull the ears off a Gungar like the gorilla here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, thanks for listening to the episode. Just a few quick things. As always, reviews and social media engagement are greatly appreciated, but recommending the podcast to friends is the best way to help us grow. If you'd like some LDT flavored merch, check out teespring.com/stores/taxonomytees. That's it. Thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
What's a Gungar?
That's what Han says to Luke after he is healed from his snowy ordeal. You look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gungar. And then they proceed to have just the most well-written conversation between Han and Leia. Just great writing. I don't know where you get your ideas, laser brain.